1. I work night shift at Kroger, so naturally the scene was pitch black for me, aside from a couple of streetlights giving off a dim orange glow. I don't remember the exact time it happened. All I know is that it was between 12 to 2 o'clock in the morning. I pull into the semi-empty parking lot of my store as another car was pulling out. I parked pretty quick, a bit away from the store, but not too far. I look up at the car that was still at the pullout, and stare at it until it took a left until I couldn't see it anymore. Nothing wrong just yet. At first it just seemed like a typical night. I had about 5 minutes left until I had to go inside and clock in, so I was just biding my time until then, playing on my phone and not paying any attention. I heard the sound of an engine and looked back up. Seeing a car pull into the parking lot on the side I was on, I furrowed my brows and recognized that it was the same car that pulled out when I first pulled in. Now, you're all probably thinking that it's not the same man, but it was. There were things in the back of the car like toys or something, so I recognized those right away when he pulled in. What made it really creepy, though, was that he did a full circle around my car and parked 4 spots away from me. He didn't turn his car off, nor headlights, just idled there. Everything around me was silence, and I would hear my own heartbeat beginning to speed up. I was a bit worried and didn't even look at him, staring down at my phone and pretended I didn't care. He stayed there for maybe 3 minutes before he slowly pulled out, taking the same left like he did last time. I took a breath and pulled my hood over my head. Moments after my heart sunk down into the lowest pits of hell, the car came back for the 3rd time. I'm a silent panicker, so my face was utterly neutral and calm, but inside I was a total shivering and worried mess. He came back for a 3rd time, circled around my car very slowly, and parked 4 rows down to my right, engine still running and headlights still on, like he did last time. In my silence, my mind scrambled through the possibilities of what I could do and what were my options. I already knew that my 20-year-old and 5'4" ass wasn't going to leave this freaking car, so what could I do? My one and only opportunity came when the car pulled out once more and took the same old left, disappearing into the darkness where he once sprung from. I couldn't see him anymore, no light, no engine, he was gone. So I gathered up all my crap for work, got out of my car, locked it, and hauled ass inside the store. I never stopped looking over my shoulder the whole time until I was behind the locked doors. I didn't know if he came back for a 4th time. I put it in the back of my mind and went to work. Sometime during the night, I talked to my manager. I think someone was casing me in the parking lot, I said to him rather calmly, and a bit light-hearted too. He didn't take it lightly, though. I saw the shift in his eyes, and he immediately became worried for me. I told him what happened, and he said to me, "If something like this happens again, call me and I'll come walk you in, or have one of the guys come with you too." After I got home that day, I told my protective, gun-loving dad about the incident, and he drove with me to work the next day to make sure nothing was going on. I came in at a different time that day, and as expected, nothing happened. I've never heard nor seen that car again, and that was roughly 2 years ago. I still work the night shift at Kroger to this day. As I said, I'm now a 22-year-old woman, 5'4" and 100 pounds. It wouldn't have taken much to overpower me. I'm a prime target. Luckily enough, I do now carry a gun in my car. So if I have anything to say about this matter, then I'd rather it not happen again. Stay safe out there, guys. You don't want your face on the news for the wrong reasons. 2. Let's begin. So how my friend group works is we have our little circle of people who we hang around with most often. But for big events or bonfires or something similar, we expand, and a couple of different friend groups join one. Ben is a part of one of these extended friend groups. He is someone who always posts different and interesting things, who always has something to say. I've gotten along really well with Ben at these events, and we always end up chatting. I've always found him to be a different and unique individual. Ben started going to my local college this year. He shot me a Snapchat basically saying, "Hey, all my friends went away to different schools, and the only person I have to talk to from my area is my now ex-girlfriend.
I was wondering if you wanted to get a group together and hang out, because I'd like to have some new friends around.
It was actually a really nice message, because with the course I'm in, I don't get to make many friends. And all my close friends are spread out now too, so I said yes. The hangout was initially supposed to be one of my friends, him and one of his friends. It was a day after class, and I just got home. He told me he was going to take a quick nap before we all headed out. When he wakes up, he tells me it's now too late, and he has other plans he forgot about. That's totally fine. I wasn't upset about it. I cancel with my friend too, so I can just sit down and do some homework. He texts me a few hours later. I didn't give him my number, he found it, telling me his other plans got cancelled and now he's available again and wondering if I still wanted to do something. I said my friend was now out of the city, and he texted his friend, but they didn't answer. He decided to pick me up and go for a drive, and just chat. Normal enough. Ben gets to my house at around 10. I go and hop into his car and he speeds off. Oddly enough, he's talking in an accented voice, kind of like Jamaican or something similar. I thought he was just being goofy, so I played along. Sometimes I would answer back in the accent. And then I started to think it was weird that he wasn't talking in his own voice at all. He was driving like a maniac down the street, telling me how he was drinking earlier because he thought he was going to a party. I asked him if he was drinking and driving, and he said no, he only had a few sips. I know I probably should have gotten out of the car then, but at this point... We're flying down the highway, and I'm scared. He begins to rant about his ex, telling me that there was infidelity and trust issues on his end, and he couldn't tell me what they were because he didn't want me to think badly of him. He told me he was still going to marry this girl and have her children. He ranted about her and got on tangents and started to scream and yell. I started to think maybe he was on some drug or something. We arrive at my college, a half-hour to 40-minute drive away in another city. And he says we should get out of the car. I'm already scared and my phone is dying, so I just listen to what he says. At this point, I'm literally thinking he might kill me. He took me for a walk through the light woods and then started to make sounds like a creature. He would make like dinosaur sounds or sounds like The Grudge. He would also walk like a creature, morphing his body into weird, creepy movements. I requested for us to go home because I was literally terrified. We get back into the car and start to drive home. He pulls out a pipe and smokes something. I told him that he shouldn't do that, but he doesn't listen. Now he begins to yell. He starts back on his tangents about life again. He pulls over the car to get out and do some jumping kicks, like, what? At this point, my phone is dead. He gets back in the car and puts on his favorite song. This song begins slow and picks up a little later. It's like a 4-minute song. He begins to scream along to the lyrics, and smash the windows and dashboard, and wheel with his hands, stomping his feet. I've seen someone passionate about a song before, but not like this. Ben swerves all around the road until we get to my house. He then turns to me and says without an accent, "I know it's late, but did you want to have sex?" In the most casual tone in the world. I gave a nervous laugh and said, "Actually, I'm good." He turned to the back seat to get something, but I got out of the car and booked it to my house. I locked the door to my house and the bedroom door in my room as if he would break in. It might not sound as terrifying as it was for me in the moment, but at the time I was shaking out of pure fear. I don't know if he was just on some crazy drug or he had a split personality or something. But I've never met a person before who I've looked at and thought to myself, you are going to kill someone someday. I really hope he doesn't hear this because I actually see him at school frequently. So yeah, fun life. 3. This is one of my favorite stories to tell. It was 2009, I'm in high school and I'm male. English is not my first language, but hey, at least I've got more than one, right? I live on an island where most people live near the coast, but my childhood house is deep in the mountains. Imagine a house in the woods, but at the very top of a mountain. This house is surrounded by thick mist every night, like in the bad horror movies, and the woods about it start less than 2 feet from the outer walls of the house. Our closest neighbor is a 15-minute drive, and 5 minutes away there is an abandoned house. I think the house belonged to a distant relative, but was abandoned more than 40 years ago.
There's no streetlights, and there's all kinds of animals roaming the area. This is important to the story, because even though you couldn't see a group of 10 people hiding 1 meter away from you in the woods, you could hear absolutely everything up to a couple kilometers away. If we saw car lights or heard a car approaching, me and my family would turn off the lights and hide. Don't know why, shy, antisocial, you name it. I think that's enough to set the story up, but I'll add some details that might be important. My house is small and impoverished, but our family car was a good one. I don't know much about cars, but my dad always said that without a really good car, he wouldn't be able to go up and down the mountain we lived in. Also, there's currently 8 people inside our house around 11 p.m. So, I'm at the dining table enjoying some cereal while I watch some anime, having the time of my life. The lights in the house were on, so nothing could be seen in the dark outside. There's a window in front of me that looks to the front entrance of our house and the only road. Something calls my attention, but I neither hear nor see anything. I think I see a human silhouette outside, but it doesn't move, so I just ignore it as some effect of the lights in my house and my own reflection. More anime, more cereal. I feel something moving at the other side of the window, and this time the silhouette is waving at me. I felt my heart jump out of my chest and froze. The person outside waves at me as if trying for nobody else in the house to notice him. After maybe 10 seconds in which I'm just looking at him with a spoon halfway to my mouth, he decides to call, "Hello, I need help!" My parents hear him and approach the window, which made me realize I wasn't looking at a ghost. Amazing news. The man outside starts telling a story about how he got his car stolen at gunpoint and needs help. My parents are surprised that nobody heard his footsteps or a car or anything, so they whisper their theories among themselves. For the mysterious guy's story to be true, he had to be mugged more than a mile away, get his car stolen, and then walk for half an hour in the dark through the woods, following the dim light of our house. My parents still decide to believe him, and they offer to call the police. Our visitor begins to say the stupidest things he could have. "Don't call the police. I don't have a gun." My parents stay silent for a while. The guy outside knows he messed up, but proceeds to make his request. "Can I get a ride downtown?" My dad nervously chuckles and gives him an excuse. He mentions the time, the fact that he felt the guy was lying, and that he had already called the police a lie. This is when my favorite part of the story begins. I stand up from the table, shaking. I go to a closet, and even though I can't see the guy's face, I know he's following my actions. I get 2 machetes that are half my size, and run to another room. I was terrified. And looking back, I probably took away the only weapons my parents could have used to protect themselves in case of an altercation. I opened a door to the room where me and my siblings sleep, and they were watching some silly show. Probably something stupid like Hannah Montana or iCarly. And their hyena laughter came out. My sisters are loud, and my younger brothers are 4 years old, 7 years old, and 9 years old, so their laughs are angelic by day, but demonic by night. I signal at them to shut up, and they do so, joining me and my parents in our fear. We hear in silence, and the guy says, "It's okay if you can't help me. I'll go to the next house." My dad says, "There's no next house. You should wait for the police here." "I don't need police. I'm good." This goes back and forth. The guy is now in good enough shape to walk the hour down the mountain to reach downtown. My dad offers a rusty metal tricycle from our porch so that he can go downtown as a joke. The guy accepts this offer and grabs the tricycle. I assume he just wanted to leave with something. This tricycle is 20 years old, and it definitely doesn't work. We hear the screeching from the tricycle for a couple seconds as the stranger struggled to be able to ride it and then stopped not too far away from our house. It seemed like he stopped. And we didn't hear any footsteps that indicated the guy had left. After trying to identify if he was still on site to no avail, my dad calls the police. We wait in silence, looking at the road from the front windows. 15 minutes later, the police get there, amazing time back home. Heroic, even. And as soon as the red and blue lights show up, they illuminate the entire road up to the abandoned house. The tricycle is still in the road not too far away. The police claim not to see anybody on the road, only one road in the mountain. And if the guy kept on walking, they would have seen him. So they just took a look at the woods with a flashlight and called it a day. The cops were clearly freaked out by the eerie look of our house and did not stay more than 5 minutes. Nothing else happened that night. I slept with 2 machetes under my pillow, which I remember angered one of my sisters. We have no idea who the person was. No carjackings were reported the next day. And even though a lot of weird things happened around my house, we never saw this guy again. It's pretty obvious he was trying to steal our family's car, but there were a few things we could never understand. Where the hell did he come from? Where the hell did he go? If his story was true, he had the worst luck in the world. I think the situation was interesting because I think about his point of view, and our horror night turns out a bit comical. I mean, imagine this. You go to rob a house. Turns out the people inside speak calmly. I don't know how much criminals encounter this as they try to intimidate or deceive. There's a scrawny, seemingly mute kid that tries to be sneaky in grabbing some machetes, and then hides in the darkness in the house. And there's child laughter coming from non-visible rooms from the house. He could see the doors, but looking inside the rooms would be impossible from the windows. I think we were lucky to out-creep the creep that night. I don't see any other reason for the guy to back out from his plans. The guy clearly had a gun and bad intentions. Not to mention his ability to ninja walk through a forest, where we even hear wildcats walking around. Also, no neighbors to witness or hear anything. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 3 True Scary Stories, episode 449. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Well, I think I'm getting back on track gradually in terms of scheduling. It's currently 2:45 in the afternoon, not in the morning, and I'm actually recording early. It does mean I have to deal with just lots of annoying neighborhood sounds, but I can't complain too much as, you know, this is the time where civilization civilizates? Is that a word? Well, it's a word now. Okay. The good thing about being up at this time is everywhere's still open, and you don't really miss the mailman that much. I'm actually waiting on a thing coming from Amazon today. Nothing fancy. I drink lots of water, like Volvic, a touch of fruit. Apparently that's just the UK brand. You guys, folks in America don't seem to have it. But I drink loads of that. So I order it once a month. I get it from Amazon, right? And sometimes I'll get it from like the local supermarket, but it's better to get it from Amazon because they come packaged. And I can just set the packages on the counter because it's really nowhere else to store like 24 bottles of water at once. But it actually works out cheaper to get it from Amazon and get it delivered. So I'm waiting on that arriving today, and that'll do me till, well, like I say, it'll do me about a month. Okay, let me think. Any updates? Well, I will of course say thank you very much for everyone who joined me for the stream at the weekend. It's been quite fun playing the Sherlock Holmes games with you guys. That particular game, well, we haven't played every case in it together, but we did play the final case, so I might see about doing one of the other games. There did seem to be a little bit of popularity in the chat for Sherlock Holmes versus Jack the Ripper, and Watson's even more annoying in that game, so if I can get that to work windowed, then we'll do that, because I kind of need to have it. I play my game. I do a streaming in the living room, so I need to be able to window the game and then have the chat by the side. It's more convenient that way. I mean, I can do it. And I'll also need to have the Discord up. So, although I could have the chat on my tablet, I would need to have the Discord as well. It's a thing. I've got a setup that works for me, and I need to be able to maintain it. So. I'm sure there's a way for me to actually get the game working windowed, not full screen. It's a bit older, so there'll be a bit of jiggery pokery to get it working, and that's not as dirty as it sounds, I assure you. Oh, actually, there is one thing I do want to ask before I go. What are your thoughts on premieres? I've never done one on this channel, but I was wondering if it would be worthwhile using like the premiere feature There's a couple of new series I'm working on. I'm working on the initial episodes, and as usual, if they're popular, we'll do more of them. So I was wondering what you thought of premieres. So should I just pop the video up and then just let it do its thing as normal? Or should I schedule the premiere and make it a grand event? Maybe I could get Helen Mirren to cut the ribbon or something. Anyway, with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.